First, you're announcing your candidacy to run for the leadership.
Yes, I'm putting myself forward, fully nominated as of yesterday morning for the leadership, because I think we've got a huge job to do, and I think that I'm the right person to put myself forward to do that.
When did you reach this decision? Has this been something that you've thought about for years and decades, that one day you could step up to be leader, or has it been in the last few days?
What I focused on during my time in Parliament and through the general election is winning for my party. And that is why, for example, I went out all those media rounds that I did prior to the general election, including yourselves and others, to fight for every single vote, to try and get a result which saw as fewer of my colleagues losing their seats as possible. I'm a team player, and that's what I've done. I now look at where we are as a party, which is we have a huge amount of ground to make up, both in terms of trust with the British electorate, but also in terms of that reputation for competence that we need to deliver. And I think I am in the right position to tackle those two challenges through time, because it will take time, and we have time now to do that.
A lot of people, as your fellow peers are putting themselves forward, wonder, are you part of the change, part of the old? Where in the party do you sit? As you mentioned, I think you did 25% or more of the media rounds for the party, for Rishi Sunak during the election campaign. Are you a continuity candidate after Rishi Sunak?
The reason
being associated with him, is that a bad thing after the election result?
The reason that I did all those media rounds was that I had the courage and the drive to put my head above the parapet and to go out and face the fire, because I wanted to save as many Conservative seats as I possibly could. And I will take that resolve into leadership if I am privileged enough to win that particular position. As regards the past, I think the past is the past, and we can talk about that, and we need to get through that phase of criticising various people and so on as quickly as possible, because we've got to focus on the future wealth. And that's about winning back trust. That means we've got to unite as a Conservative parliamentary party and more broadly as a party. And I think I'm in the right position to do that politically, in terms of the relationships and the respect that I think I have across the parliamentary party. I was chair of the Treasury Select Committee, leader of the House of Commons. Those are roles in which, in fact, right across Parliament, it's about bringing people together to solve problems. And the second thing is, I'm going to be a driver of change. So when I was Secretary of State at Work and Pensions, I brought in some of the biggest welfare reforms in a generation, meaning that, as the OBR has said, 400,000 fewer people going into long-term sickness and disability benefits. And in fact, about 2/3 of the tax cuts that we were going to bring in, had we been elected, were funded by plans that I had bottomed out within welfare. So I have the drive to change and deliver that we now need to reconstruct and reconfigure our political party.
You're seen as being less to the right of the party, as some of your colleagues, as is Tom Tugendhat, who announced his candidacy yesterday. He said yesterday he would leave the ECHR. Were you surprised by that? Was that opportune of him as opposed to principled? And what's your view on it?
So I'm not going to get into criticising in any way any of my opponents.
You probably will have to over the next couple of months.
I think it's important we don't, actually, because whoever wins this contest needs to go back to the parliamentary party as a unifying force, and that's not going to be served by us attacking each other along the way. But on the point of the ECHR, I think it's an important point here that we look at these issues in a way that will command the support of the Conservative parliamentary party, because whatever position one takes in this contest, the person that wins is going to go back to that party and say, these are the positions I painted myself in on, and we're going to have to work with that. I think it's much better that the parliamentary party is part of the process on some of those issues, including that one, in building to a definitive position, given that we've got 5 years now, Wilf, until the next general election, and plenty of time to do it.
So what's your view on that?
So my view is that we must absolutely not have the ECHR being able in any way to get in the way of us being able to deliver as a sovereign nation, for example, a deterrent around migration. And I think that is an immovable position that I have. But there are many ways that you can address this: derogations, reforms, and so on and so forth. And the point I'm making is that in this contest, I think it would be a big mistake for anybody to be pushing positions or putting stakes in the ground, perhaps to appeal, maybe to our membership or sections of it, and then having to go back to the parliamentary party and find that half of the parliamentary party feel very strongly of a different opinion. We have to collectively come together to come to these solutions.
I wanted to touch on some broader points following our interview with the Minister Wes Streeting earlier. He used the phrase a total work of fiction relating to some of the information that he said the previous health minister had put out. Clearly, we're expecting this update on the finances from Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, on Monday, which is reportedly going to reveal a hole in the finances to the tune of £20 billion. Was the Conservative government selective with the truth on the finances in the last few months of government?
Not at all, Will. Look, let's be very clear about what's going on here. When Wes Streeting refers to total work of fiction, he could be referring to what Labour said in the run-up to the general election on taxation. Labour basically ruled out raising taxes across 75% of the taxes that raise taxes in this country and made it very clear they were not in the market for raising taxes. The books were open before the general election. Paul Johnson, the head of the IFS, made that statement. He said they go into this
Conspiracy of silence, but it was applied to both parties.
He said something different, Wilf, which was the books were open. The Labour Party could see the state of the finances, the position that we were on, which is a very positive one in many ways, incidentally, but they could see that ahead of the election. What they're doing now is they're rolling the pitch by saying they've suddenly opened everything up, had a look, and it's far, far worse than they ever could have possibly imagined, and therefore we're going to raise your taxes. They knew exactly where the economy was before the general election. They're simply rolling the pitch to renege on their promises to the British people come the budget in the autumn. And we will hold them to account on that. My background, Financial Secretary to the Treasury, I was responsible for taxation in the UK for 2 years. I was chair of the Treasury Select Committee. I want to be the leader that holds Keir Starmer to account across that dispatch box forensically, and I want to wrestle back that mantle of economic competence that we need to have as our core as we go forward towards the next general election.
We'll see what comes in the autumn statement when it arrives. Interesting, by the way, that the former Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, has said since the election result that there wouldn't have been room for tax cuts this calendar year, as the Conservatives had alluded to in their election campaign. So there was some holes, I think, in the campaign. Can I
just very quickly say on that when we went to the British people and said we can deliver tax cuts, 2/3 of the funding of that came from the reforms that I was generating in controlling the welfare budget. 2/3 of it, about £12 billion worth.
But there weren't room for tax cuts to come in this autumn statement, was what the former Chancellor was saying. Two other quick areas I just wanted to get to. Another one in terms of government business. It's reported that the government is going to remove its objection that the prior government had in terms of opposition to the ICC arrest warrant for Prime Minister Netanyahu. What's your view on that?
So I think this is something that we need to look at very closely. I'm very aware of the fact that Lord Herman has got together with the Prime Minister, and that appears to be the view, and therefore they will not be defending the position that we have in train in that respect. But I want to have a closer look at that.
Just finally, in terms of your bid for the leadership, leaders clearly need to be strong and in a strong position. You won your seat, I think, by 61 votes only. Are you in a slightly weak position in that regard?
I don't think so, no. In fact, I won my seat against the odds, and I won it because I fought and fought and fought really hard to preserve that. Look, we've got to have greater aspirations than holding my seat, a seat that in previous elections has come in with a majority of 17,500, over 20,000 at one point. We've got to be absolutely focused on winning back all, particularly the safe seats that we lost. Many seats that were apparently safer than mine got swept away. We've got to have much greater aspirations than worrying about my seat and my small majority. We've got to get back to more normal times. But we will only do that if we have a leader that can unite the parliamentary party, take the time, have an intelligent, detailed approach to getting the right policy platform together through working through the broader Conservative family. And I believe that I'm the person to do that.